Oh, all hot today, really hot. It was hot yesterday. In the morning hours it was in the 90s. It cooled off to the 80s in the afternoons, and then the evening it was in the 70s. Right now it's back up in the 80s. But I know that there's drought going on all over the US right now, and that things are getting dry, dusty, and hot here in California. But that's not unusual. We're in the norm. We're always hot and dry in September, October, and November, the beginning of November. Then the rains come, and the relief, and the flowers come out. So I'm going to go this way right here, and we'll go see if we can find a good place to do a video. We're going to cover carbon, or what's known as CO2 emissions. So let's talk about the Arctic first. A new study was done, and they found that rising permafrost CO2 emissions in the Arctic in the winter. Now this is something we never think about. Is we think the Arctic doesn't have any emissions during the winter, which it does, because apparently the permafrost, there is life in there giving off CO2. The warmer it is during the summer, and then the winter, fall, spring months, the higher the CO2 is in the winter. Well, they went and found that the CO2 levels are rising faster than plants can take it up worldwide. And that's just in North America's permafrost. This outgassing of CO2 during the winter could and probably will increase by 41% in the next couple of years. We have a whole herd of something coming through the bush here. I think they're little birds all in a herd looking for worms and things. No, they're completely buried. I can't show them to you. I can't even see them. Oh, it's a bunch of squirrels. That's pretty funny. So, who by country is emitting the most human-made CO2 into the atmosphere? Let's find out which companies are emitting the most CO2 in the atmosphere worldwide. Saudi Aramco is number 1. Chevron is number 2, Gazprom number 3, Exxon number 4, BP 5, Royal Dutch Shell 6, and Coal India 7. Those particular industries are causing more CO2 than the rest of the planet combined. Let's not forget what 7 is. 7 is the making of cement. It really puts out a lot of CO2 because you have to cook it, which means a whole lot of a whole lot of CO2 emissions. So since 1751, CO2 emissions have gone up to 1.5 trillion tons total. Let's break that down a little bit more. North America put out 457 tons. Gotta get my notes here to get all this together here. That equals 25% of all the human-made CO2. The EU put out 353 billion tons since 1751. China has put out 200 billion tons. Brazil, 14.2 billion tons. So the EU put out 22%. China put out 12.7%. India, 3%. And Brazil, 0.9%. You know, this way we can find out who's putting out the CO2 and who you go after. It obviously is not Brazil, other than they need to put out the Amazon fires, which are back in raging order as we speak. So if you want somebody to go after in a non-violent, non-illegal way, there's your choices, from the biggest to the smallest. It's obvious who is emitting the most CO2 on the planet. It's the West, the EU, the US, and China is also contributing now. So those 3 places need to curb their CO2 dramatically to do any good with curbing greenhouse gases. That's why I say what I say, that every human in the US, EU, China can really make a big difference in the size of vehicle they drive, how much they drive, how close they live to where they work, what they put in their mouths for food. We've talked about that in many videos, including the last one. I'll put the link down in the description area. So, unfortunately, getting here, there was a car parked out in the forest. I don't know how it got there. And there was sun beaming right down on that vehicle. It was a pickup truck. And I could hear a dog whining inside of it. And I said, well, let's see, the vehicle's black. The windows are tinted black. And the sun is on full rage on top of this vehicle. I said, sometimes when you go outside, you just hate to see this type of thing. Boy, these squirrels or something else are just jumping from place to place. Every once in a while I can see all the shrubbery moving. So he's made quite a distance. He went from here all the way around and over to there. That's quite a ways, really. I'll go up there and see if I can get some video of them, but don't count on them. They're very skittish here. Actually, he's actually coming down here. There's one group of people that live in these areas in the US, the EU, and China that are billionaires. So you see, for them to have fun, they have to go fly somewhere in jets or motor somewhere in big, huge yachts. The wealthy among us are the worst contributors to CO2. Not only that, but methane, because of all the methane that's made to make the fuel that they're using to have their fun. See, they need to burn up so much CO2 that you could probably measure these people's footprint. It's so big. Another reason why billionaires aren't a good idea. They couldn't care less about you or me or the planet. As long as they're having fun, they don't really care. And of course, industry that invented obsolescence, a direct way you can throw things out and pollute the earth and make money off of it. Big corporations are not our friends. More trees, more plants, more green material drinks up CO2 in the summer, gets rid of it in the winter if it loses its leaves. If it keeps its leaves during the winter time, there's less CO2 emission from these types of plants. When the leaves start to decompose, even in the winter time, it contributes to CO2 and methane. Your best bet for planting vegetation around your house is what already grew there before your house was there. The native vegetation works perfect wherever you live. So I definitely appreciate all the ups, the downs, and the new subscribers. And until next time, I couldn't leave the dogs, so I got some help. And there's help going up there right now. Apparently it's somebody who trains dogs. Unbelievable. But at least the dog will get out alive.